All right, so we're done with UI. Now let's talk logic. And like I have been repeating over and over and over again, we will make a fetch request. So these updates will happen on the server. It's not just some local data that we'll be updating. We'll be updating some values on the server. The endpoint is auth update user plus the root URL, of course. The method is batch, and these are the values that server expects. So we need to provide everything. Even though we might be updating just one value, the server is looking for all of them, for the email, name, last name, as well as the location. Now, what's also very, very important is that we pass in the authorization header, because let's think about it. So Peter or John or whoever has logged in, only he or she should be able to update those values. So you don't want some random person to log in and then just start updating someone else's profile, correct? Now, how do we restrict that access? Well, that's where that token comes into play. Remember, every time we log in or register, we're getting back this token, the one that is saved here in the local storage. So that's the one that we need to attach to the request. And then the server knows, hey, this is such and such user, and we're updating these values. And if there's something wrong with this token, or if it's not present, then server sends back 401, the status code 401, which means unauthorized. So I'm not allowed to access, for example, Peter's account, or Susan is not allowed to access Anna's account. And hopefully you see where I'm going with this. And the way we structure such request, basically, now we're accessing a restricted resource on the server. So similarly, how we have restricted pages, let's say, on a front end, now we have restricted resource on the server. And in order to access that, we need to use authorization header. And it has a very specific syntax where we go with first bearer. Yes, needs to match to the T. And then space and token. So server is going to be looking for all of these things. Whether we have authorization header, whether we have here the name bearer at the start, whether we have the space, and then the token. And if someone has tampered with the token or the token has expired, and as a side note, I set the expiration for 1 day. So token will be valid for 1 day, or the token is not present. Then server sends back the error. Now, I'll discuss the nitty-gritty of setting up such request in the following video when we go with update user, where basically we set up the create async thunk and all that. For now, I just want to showcase how it's going to look like as far as the browser. So I'm going to navigate to the complete application, and I want to open up the network tab, and I'll just change the location value. Again, you can change any of them. Just keep in mind that if you change the email, of course, when you log in, you'll also have to change this email. And yes, this will also check for those duplicate values. So let's say if I try to do it here with John12, notice right now we'll have email field has to be unique, because while I was recording, I already set up an account with this email. This is just a tiny side note. Now, my main point here is to showcase how the request is going to look like. So let me go back and let me just change my location to, let's say, LA. Once I submit, notice that we make another request, update user, and the status in this case is 200. So we successfully updated this value. So if I'll take a look at the Redux tools, I'll see that I have a user object in there. And then, of course, the location value now is the Los Angeles. And that's the one that we'll use in the add job as well. Now, more importantly, let's just dissect this request. First of all, request URL. Like I have been harping over and over again. This is the URL. And then notice the specific endpoint. So we have root URL and then auth updated user. So root URL, whatever it is, in this case, it's this one, and then / auth an updated user. Now, what is the method? It is patch. And like I have been saying, if you'll set up a GET request to this particular route, it's not going to work because server is expecting a HTTP method by the name of patch. Now, status code 200 means that we have been successful. That's why we get back okay. And if you'll take a look at the previous one, you'll see that it is 400, which means a bad request. And then let's keep on scrolling. We're looking for request headers. And now notice we have here this authorization header with the value of bearer and then the token value. And this is going to be the only way how I'll be able to set up the requests in dashboard. Please keep in mind, whether we are adding the job, editing the job, deleting the job, looking at all the jobs, getting the stats, all of that info belongs to this one user. And that is by design. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense if somebody just can come in here and start tampering with the values. Hopefully it's clear, and then in the following video, we'll start setting up the request in the user slice.